I'm getting the wood stove started. I'm putting a cinnamon stick in the kettle, which makes the house just smell like Christmas. We've got delicious smells, and the wood stove keeps us warm and cozy. Come spend the day with us as we hunker down inside for a cozy winter day. We're baking gingerbread cookies and a hearty meatloaf. Right now, my kids are helping me roll out some gluten-free gingerbread dough. We have all different cookie cutters, and they're trying to pick which ones they want to use. They are helpers. In the past, sometimes it wasn't so much as helping, but making a mess. But those are still good memories, and right now we're making even more memories. I've had to do, well, it's happened over a period of time, but just a mental mindset change where even if it's not perfect, or even if they do make a mess, that's still important that they're involved and they're helping me. So I really do enjoy them being in the kitchen with me, even though 6 extra hands making cookies can make it take longer. It's way more important that they're in there with me, and we're having fun, and they're picking out their shapes, and we're rolling out the dough. We had to chill that dough for 3 hours, and if I had $1 for every time they asked me if the dough was ready, we could have probably bought a case of gingerbread cookies from a nice bakery. But anyway, we were learning patience that day, and so they were excited when the dough was finally ready. And I used parchment paper this time. We make gingerbread cookies every year, but this was the first year I actually used parchment paper, and I really liked it. It did add about 3 minutes to the total time I put them in the oven. Usually I put them in for about 5 minutes, and I think I ended up having to put them in for 8 minutes, which isn't a huge deal. They still turned out soft and chewy. That's how we like them. Now, if you like them crunchy, you'll just have to put them in for even longer, but we sure like them soft and chewy. And I used the Better Homes and Gardens cookbook. It's just their gingerbread cutouts. And I did everything exactly the same. I just substitute gluten-free flour. I use King Arthur's measure for measure gluten-free flour instead of regular flour, and they always turn out great. My husband and I love gingerbread cookies around the holidays because they aren't overly sweet, so you don't feel like you've just crammed your mouth full of a whole bunch of sugar. And then we probably eat more than we should, but they don't seem overly sweet, so we eat more. But anyway, it's just a tradition that we like to do with our kids, is make gingerbread cookies. So I actually used only half of the dough, and I froze the other half, and I'll make those up probably Christmas Eve, and we'll eat them on Christmas Day when all of our family comes over. So we're just finishing up. I'm putting the last cookies on the pan, and I'm about to stick them in the oven. And I wanted to mention too that just like anything, homemaking or staying home with your kids and homeschooling takes time and practice and repetition. It was hard in the beginning, and it's still not the easiest job by any means, but it's gotten a lot easier. You just know the things you have to take care of. There was Dad getting a little bite of cookie dough, and I was cleaning up, and there's the final result. Those cookies did not last long. We ate those all in that evening. And here I am making a gluten-free meatloaf. This is so easy. Instead of using breadcrumbs, I use gluten-free table crackers, and I smash them up really small and just use those as the breadcrumbs. And sometimes if I don't get them small and there's just a little chunk of cracker, who cares? It still tastes good. Basically, this recipe is just ketchup, water, breadcrumbs, 2 eggs, of course, 2 pounds of hamburger meat, and I just season it to taste. I usually just use salt, pepper, garlic salt, and rosemary. You could use a Lipton onion soup mix or something like that if you didn't want to mess with the spices, but I just season it to taste, and then it's just 350 in the oven for an hour. Super easy and simple. I like to make this up and eat on it during the week just to have some quick protein, and it fills me up. So that's what we ate for dinner, and then I had it left over for the week. And if you'll see there on the counter, we've got some tomatoes. Before our first freeze, we probably pulled 50 small green tomatoes off the vines. And when I say we, I mean my husband. And he put them down in our storm cellar on some newspaper in a cool, dark place, and they will ripen up. So he goes down and checks on them. And when some have turned red, he'll bring those up and put them in the windowsill. My middle son and him love to have just sliced tomatoes with some seasoning on it. We really are trying to grow our own food. We know that God designed it that way, and we want to eat good food that makes us feel good. So hopefully this spring our garden will be even bigger. We only have a storm cellar, and it's not very big. It's just basically a concrete room in the ground. In Oklahoma, we really don't have basements or cellars. I think it has something to do with the water table. I'm not sure. But I would say 8 out of 10 people or 7 out of 10 people have a storm cellar, because we do have tornadoes. And when you need it, you need it. But the rest of the year, you could use it for something like this. So we do put some produce, or like I said, these tomatoes down there. And there's the finished product. It was super tasty. Hey guys, story and laundry time. I was trying to think of a Christmas type story and more of a funny story. And the call that came to mind was came out as a domestic disturbance, which a lot of times is a priority 3 or priority 2. When someone calls 911, their call gets assigned a priority. So priority 1 through 6. Priority 1 means it's an active shooter, something super serious. It's got to be assigned an officer right away. A priority 6 is not serious. Probably it's a phone call that someone just needs to make, and that can hold in your computer. So this is our priority 3. It's not an emergency, but it's got to be assigned and taken care of. So it was a slow night. 3 of us go to this call. It comes out, like I said, as a domestic between a husband and a wife over steak, how she cooked his steak. So going there, I know this is probably not a police matter. And oftentimes when we would go to people's houses on stuff like this, I'd say, is this a police matter or a family matter? And usually I would say 9 times out of 10 they would say family matter, and then we would just leave. But anyway, we go to this house. It's a small house. You walk right into their kitchen. A little old lady's at the stove cooking the steak, and there's an older man at the table, and he's all got a sour look on his face. And it's obvious there's nothing we can do about this. But if you look right to the left, it goes right into their living room. So me and one of my partners were just in the kitchen, just kind of making small talk, letting these people air out their grievances. And my third partner, he just disappears. Well, he has gone into their living room and has started vacuuming. Now, their vacuum wasn't left out. He went into their hall closet, got their vacuumed their whole living room carpet, and then rolled the cord back up, put it back in their hall closet, and then he just leaves. And as he's leaving, I'm thinking, that's a good time. I'm going to leave. So I leave, and I say, Merry Christmas, and we just walk out the door. And I guess it solved the problem because they never called back. And, sometimes you just have to do things like that and make light of things. Anyway, I'm so glad you guys stopped by, and I hope to see you next time.